Town of Los Gatos Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, July 11th, 2018 is now called to order. Mr. Paulson, will you call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Badami?
Here.
Commissioner Birch?
Here.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Here.
Commissioner Hanson?
Here.
Vice Chair Hudis?
Here.
And Chair Kane.
Here. I'd ask everyone to stand and join Commissioner Birch in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Town of Los Gatos strongly encourages active participation in the public process, which is a cornerstone of democracy and essential to the Planning Commission conducting its business on behalf of the Town Council and the citizens of the town. There are several ways for members of the public to participate in the deliberations of the Planning Commission. Prior to a commission meeting, written comments concerning agenda items may be submitted to staff. They are always welcome and always helpful. At the meetings of the commission, there are two opportunities for members of the public to participate. During the verbal communications period, an individual may speak on any topic not on the agenda, and any member of the public may speak during the public hearing of an item that is on the agenda. If you wish to address the commission tonight, do you? All right. Or if you wish to address the commission tonight during the verbal communication period or during consideration of an agenda item, please complete a speaker card located on the back of the benches where you are seated. For anyone who intends to speak this evening, I would ask that you come up to the podium, adjust the microphone so that you are speaking directly into it, state your name and address for the record. In addition to their service on the Planning Commission, members of the Commission serve on several town committees. Are there any reports tonight? Historic? General?
If there was, I'll bring it up next time.
All right. So we now come to the verbal communications portion of our meeting. Members of the public are invited to address the commission on any issue not on the agenda. There's a 3-minute limit for your comments. Do we have any cards tonight?
We do not.
Then we move on to the consent calendar. Tonight, the printed agenda for the meeting has something of a typo. There should only be one item on the consent calendar, approval of the June 13 minutes. Item 2, amendments to the town code, will be moved to the public hearing section of the agenda. Items on consent may be acted upon by a single motion, but before the Planning Commission acts on the consent, any member of the public or the Commission may request that an item be removed. Tonight we have one item on consent. Item 1, approval of the minutes of the June 13th, 2018 Planning Commission. Do we have a request to pull an item, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll move the adoption of the minutes. Approval of minutes.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Badami?
Second.
Comment? All those in favor, aye. Passes unanimously. So we move on to the public hearings portion of our meeting and consider item 2. Amendments to the Chapter 29 zoning regulations of the Town Code regarding affordable housing overlay zones. This is Town Code Amendment Application A 18001. Project location is townwide. Applicant is the Town of Los Gatos. Project manager for this item is Sally Zarnowitz, who is also the town planning manager. Ms. Zarnowitz, would you give us your report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This item is about the amending the zoning ordinance to match the housing element. The background on this is that the previous housing element relied on different strategies than the current one to meet the regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA. And that 4 of the 5 properties that were allocated as affordable housing overlay zones, or AHAZ sites, were actually removed in that housing element because other strategies were identified, and those strategies are attached as a exhibit to your staff report. So in order to align, which is one of the housing element major goals, in order to align the zoning ordinance with the housing element, these amendments are necessary. And they are consistent with the general plan, and we are recommending this evening that the Commission forward the draft Town Code amendments to the Town Council with a recommendation for adoption. And we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zarnowitz. Are there commissioners' questions for staff? Yes.
I just had one really quick question. I just wanted to confirm, since I was on the Housing Element Advisory Board, we did remove those 4 sites. I know that they weren't in our RENA calculations, but we also removed them from the, from any tabulation towards our affordable housing quota, if you will. And then also we did need to amend the minimum affordable housing because HCD came back and told us we couldn't stipulate more than that. So and that was put in the housing element, so we're aligning the zoning code with that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? I will open the public portion of the public hearing and invite comments from the member of the public. Do we have any comments? We still don't have any comments. Further questions for staff? I will now close the public portion of the public hearing and ask if any commissioners have questions for staff, wish to comment on the amendments, or are ready to make a recommendation to Town Council. Commissioner Hanson.
I would like to make a motion that we recommend approval of these amendments to the Town Council.
Do we need a second? Do we have a second? Commissioner Birch.
I'll second the motion.
Do we have questions or comments? Commissioner Badami.
I would support the motion as long as we include the findings that it's the findings for CEQA and the required findings for the general plan per Exhibit 1.
That's acceptable. So.
Good. Commissioner Birch.
Yes.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner O'Donnell. You started to reach.
Commissioner said exactly what I would have said.
All right. Then I'll call the question. Shall we recommend the amendments to Town Council? All in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. In a matter such as this, are there appeal rights?
There are not, because this is a recommendation to Town Council.
I'll move on to other business. I'm calling this item 3, Commission Matters. Are there any matters which any commissioner wishes to bring forth? Commissioner Badami?
I just have a question, maybe a comment. Guinness World Book of Records, is there a record for the length of time for a planning commission meeting?
The town attorney told me it was 32 minutes, and the last short one we had was 34, so I failed completely.
You're fired.
I think we're going to set a record, folks. You want to sign everybody sign it? We need a report from the Director of Community Development, Mr. Paulson.
Thank you. Since we last met, the council held a public hearing and council meeting on June 19th. At that meeting, they had the second reading for the 221 Almendra zone change. They also discussed objective standards and asked staff to do some additional research and then bring back some additional information for them to consider for objective standards in both the town code as well as the general plan. And they also adopted a resolution which modifies the deciding body for conditional use permit modifications for restaurants. They have an 18-month pilot that is going to allow existing restaurants to modify their CUPs at DRC rather than having to come to the Planning Commission.
Just one matter before we conclude. What is the purpose of the amendments coming before the Planning Commission? Is that a protocol? Is that required?
All zoning code amendments are required to be heard by the Planning Commission, who makes a recommendation to the Town Council pursuant to Town Code.
Okay. I read them over carefully. I don't know why I would, you guys are the experts. I did find one plural that needs to be made singular, and I hope that was recorded. Any other comment? We are adjourned.